Welcome to WebLizard Cert Lab. This is the second practice video in our AB-650 set with 33 questions on Microsoft Entra identity, authentication, and access. Listen for the deciding scope, sequence, and management control in each scenario. You will hear each complete question and every answer option. After the cue, lock in your answer, there is a true 3-second silence. Then, the correct selection appears before a concise, clue-driven explanation. Pause whenever you want more thinking time. Question 1. A company synchronizes 48 employee accounts from on-premises Active Directory domain services to Microsoft 365. The employees now appear as users in Microsoft 365, but they cannot use email or other Microsoft 365 apps. What should the administrator do next? Answer A. Add each employee as another Microsoft 365 user one at a time. Answer B. Assign Microsoft 365 licenses to the existing synchronized users. Answer C. Create separate cloud-only accounts for the employees. Answer D. Run directory synchronization again to create the same users a second time. Lock in your answer. The answer is B. Assign Microsoft 365 licenses to the existing synchronized users. Directory synchronization adds the user accounts, but synchronized users must be assigned licenses before they can use email and other Microsoft 365 apps. Because the accounts already exist, license assignment is the missing action. When synchronized users already exist but cannot use Microsoft 365 services, distinguish account replication from the separate license assignment step. Question 2. An organization synchronizes its user accounts from on-premises Active Directory domain services to Microsoft 365. The Helpdesk must change one of these synchronized user accounts. Which management location should the Helpdesk use? Answer A. The Microsoft 365 Admin Center user record only. Answer B. A newly created cloud-only replacement account. Answer C. The on-premises Active Directory domain services management tools. Answer D. The Microsoft Entra Admin Center cloud user record only. Lock in your answer. For a synchronized account, identify where the account originates before choosing the management plane for account changes. C is a supported answer. The on-premises Active Directory domain services management tools. For user accounts synchronized from ADDS to Microsoft 365, Microsoft Guidance identifies the on-premises ADDS tools as the place to manage the user accounts. Replacing the synchronized account with a new cloud-only account does not perform the requested change to the existing synchronized account. Question 3. A new division is onboarding 60 cloud-only employees. HR provides one finalized roster, and the organization has no directory synchronization deployment. Each employee needs a Microsoft 365 sign-in before licenses are assigned. Which provisioning action should the administrator take? Answer A. Import the roster as a Microsoft 365 group and use its membership entries as the employee accounts. Answer B. Create mail contacts from the roster and synchronize the contacts as Microsoft 365 user accounts. Answer C. Use the Microsoft 365 Admin Center to add multiple users at once from the division roster. Answer D. Assign the division's licenses to the roster and let the license assignments generate the user accounts. Lock in your answer. Microsoft 365 supports adding multiple users at once. That approach creates the required internal user accounts while avoiding an individual account creation operation for each employee. That makes C the answer. Use the Microsoft 365 Admin Center to add multiple users at once from the division roster. Choose multi-user account creation when many internal Microsoft 365 accounts must be created without an on-premises directory source, and repeated individual entry is unsuitable. Question 4. A company permits B2B collaboration, but only designated administrative roles may invite external users. Ordinary members and existing guest users must not be able to send invitations. Which setting should the company configure? Answer A, turn off invitations for everyone. Answer B, limit who can invite guests to the designated roles. Answer C, create a collaboration restriction for the guests' email domains. Answer D, scope inbound and outbound B2B access to selected applications. Lock in your answer. Restrict guest invitations to designated administrative roles while preserving a controlled invitation process. External collaboration settings can limit guest invitations to certain roles. This preserves a controlled invitation process for the designated roles, while preventing other users from inviting guests. The supported selection is answer B. Limit who can invite guests to the designated roles. Question 5. Approved inviters may collaborate with external organizations from any domain except blocked.example. The policy must prevent new invitations to block.example without changing who is allowed to send invitations. What should the administrator configure? Answer A, a guest invitation setting that changes the permitted inviter roles. Answer B, a cross-tenant access scope for selected users and applications. Answer C, a collaboration restriction that denies invitations to blocked.example. Answer D, a collaboration restriction that allows only blocked.example. Lock in your answer. Allowing only blocked.example reverses the policy by making the prohibited domain the permitted target. Collaboration restrictions can allow or deny invitations to specified domains. Answer C fits the requirement, a collaboration restriction that denies invitations to blocked.example. For invitation policies, use the policy's permitted versus prohibited domain pattern to choose between an allow restriction and a deny restriction. Question 6. A company collaborates with another Microsoft Entra organization. Its inviter role and partner domain rules already meet policy. The company must now scope inbound and outbound B2B collaboration to a specific group and application for that organization. Which settings should the administrator review? Answer A, the setting that disables all guest invitations. Answer B, cross-tenant access settings. Answer C, collaboration domain allow and deny restrictions. Answer D, guest inviter role settings. Lock in your answer. For B2B collaboration with another Microsoft Entra organization, cross-tenant access settings are the relevant control for inbound and outbound collaboration, and for scoping access to specific users, groups, and applications. The answer is B, cross-tenant access settings. Use cross-tenant access settings to scope inbound and outbound B2B collaboration to specified groups and applications for another Microsoft Entra organization. Question 7. An identity team is creating a group whose members will receive a Microsoft Entra role through the group. During group creation, the team must choose whether Microsoft Entra roles can be assigned to the group and must set the membership type. Which configuration should the team use? Answer A. Set Microsoft Entra roles can be assigned to the group to Yes and select Dynamic Device Membership. Answer B. Set Microsoft Entra roles can be assigned to the group to Yes and select Dynamic User Membership. Answer C. Set Microsoft Entra roles can be assigned to the group to Yes and use the automatically selected assigned membership type. Answer D. Set Microsoft Entra roles can be assigned to the group to No and select assigned membership. Lock in your answer. Use assigned membership when configuring a group so Microsoft Entra roles can be assigned to its members. C is the supported answer. Set Microsoft Entra roles can be assigned to the group to Yes, and use the automatically selected assigned membership type. The Microsoft Entra roles can be assigned to the group setting must be enabled for the group to assign Microsoft Entra roles to members. Enabling the role-assignable setting automatically selects assigned membership, so dynamic user does not match the documented consequence of that configuration. Question 8. A company uses Microsoft 365 groups for departmental collaboration. It wants each department's business owner to approve or deny membership requests, and to manage routine membership without sending every request to a central administrator. What should the company use? Answer A. Self-service group management based on a mail-enabled security group. Answer B. Central administrator processing for every membership request. Answer C. Self-service group management with the business owner as the group owner. Answer D. Self-service group management based on a distribution list. Lock in your answer. Match owner approval and delegated membership control to self-service group management. Then confirm that the chosen group family supports that feature. Microsoft Entra Self-Service Group Management supports Microsoft 365 groups and allows a group owner to approve or deny membership requests and delegate membership control. That makes C the answer, self-service group management with the business owner as the group owner. This matches the required owner-mediated workflow. Question 9. An organization is selecting group families for a Microsoft Entra self-service group management rollout. Which two group families support the feature? Answer A. Security groups. Answer B. Microsoft 365 groups. Answer C. Mail-enabled security groups. Answer D. Distribution lists. Lock in your answer. The supported selections are answers A and B. A. Security groups, and B. Microsoft 365 groups. Microsoft Entra Self-Service Group Management is not available for mail-enabled security groups. Microsoft Entra Self-Service Group Management is available for security groups and Microsoft 365 groups. Identify the group families that are eligible for Microsoft Entra Self-Service Group Management before selecting groups for a rollout. Question 10. 4 administrators need the same Microsoft Entra role for occasional maintenance. The organization requires them to have no ready-to-use privilege between maintenance periods. Before using the role, an administrator must complete MFA, provide business justification, and obtain approval. Which configuration should you use? Answer A. Create an eligible PIM role assignment and configure MFA, business justification, and approval as activation requirements. Answer B. Assign the role directly and use an approval process to review the assignment before each planned maintenance period. Answer C. Create an eligible PIM role assignment that requires activation but configure only business justification for activation. Answer D. Create an active PIM role assignment and require administrators to record justification after each maintenance period. Lock in your answer. An eligible PIM assignment requires activation before the role can be used, avoiding ready-to-use standing privilege. Choose an eligible rather than active role assignment when privileged access must require activation before use. An active assignment does not require activation before use and leaves privileges ready to use. Recording justification afterward does not meet the required pre-use activation boundary. Answer A fits the requirement. Create an eligible PIM role assignment and configure MFA, business justification, and approval as activation requirements. Question 11. A Microsoft Entra role is already assigned as eligible in Privileged Identity Management. Policy requires every activation request to include a written business reason and to receive authorization from an approver. Which two activation requirements should the administrator configure? Answer A. Change the assignment from eligible to active. Answer B. Require justification. Answer C. Require ticket information instead of a written business reason. Answer D. Require approval. Answer E. Remove the activation step for the role. Lock in your answer. Configure activation requirements for an eligible role so that just-in-time elevation requires the organization's stated assurance and approval evidence. PIM can require actions before an eligible role is activated, including business justification and approval from approvers. The answers are B and D. B, require justification, and D, require approval. When an eligible assignment already exists, map each stated assurance or evidence requirement to the matching PIM activation control, rather than changing the assignment type. Question 12. A Microsoft Entra role is already eligible in Privileged Identity Management, and activation already requires approval. Operations now requires every activation to be linked to the service desk record that prompted the work. Which additional activation requirement should the administrator configure? Answer A. Require ticket information. Answer B. Require approval from a service desk approver. Answer C. Require multi-factor authentication during activation. Answer D. Require a business justification. Lock in your answer. PIM activation settings can require ticket information. A is the supported answer. Require ticket information. When privileged activation must be traceable to an operational record, map that evidence requirement to ticket information without changing an already correct eligible assignment. Approval can gate activation, but selecting a service desk approver does not capture the service desk ticket reference in the activation request. Question 13. A company has a Microsoft Entra administrative unit named Northwest that contains the users supported by a regional service desk. A technician must perform Helpdesk Administrator tasks for Northwest users, but must not receive those management permissions for users elsewhere in the tenant. What should the company configure? Answer A. Assign a purview role group to the technician for the Northwest administrative unit. Answer B. Assign the Helpdesk Administrator role to the technician at tenant scope and use the Microsoft 365 Admin Center's filtered view. Answer C. Assign the Helpdesk Administrator role to the technician with scope limited to the Northwest administrative unit. Answer D. Make the technician an owner of a Microsoft 365 group that contains the Northwest users. Lock in your answer. That makes C the answer. Assign the Helpdesk Administrator role to the technician with scope limited to the Northwest administrative unit. An administrative unit can restrict the permissions of a Microsoft Entra role to a defined portion of the organization. Scoping the Helpdesk Administrator assignment to Northwest therefore supplies the required role actions, while preserving the regional management boundary. Scope a delegated Microsoft Entra administrator role to a regional or departmental administrative unit, rather than the entire tenant. Question 14. A Microsoft Entra administrative unit contains a group named branch staff. A support specialist already has a role scoped to the administrative unit that permits the required user management action. The specialist can change the group's properties, but cannot perform that action on the users who belong to branch staff. The company must preserve administrative unit scope. What should an administrator do? Answer A. Replace the specialist's scoped role with a different role at the same administrative unit scope. Answer B. Add the branch staff users as members of the administrative unit. Answer C. Remove and then re-add only the branch staff group to the administrative unit. Answer D. Change the specialist's existing role assignment to tenant scope. Lock in your answer. Membership of a group object in an administrative unit does not imply membership of the users or devices contained by that group. Adding a group to an administrative unit places the group object, but not the group's users or devices, in that management scope. Because the existing role already permits the action, the users must be added separately to the administrative unit. The supported selection is answer B. Add the branch staff users as members of the administrative unit. Question 15. A company assigns a Microsoft Entra role to administrators with scope limited to a departmental administrative unit. In the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, users outside that unit are filtered from the administrator's view. A security requirement now states that those administrators must be unable to browse any directory objects outside the department from every Microsoft administration interface. Which conclusion should guide the design? Answer A. Adding every departmental group to the administrative unit turns it into a general resource access boundary. Answer B. Changing the scoped role to a tenant scoped role will prevent browsing outside the administrative unit. Answer C. The filtered Microsoft 365 Admin Center view proves that the administrative unit blocks directory browsing in every interface. Answer D. The administrative unit limits management permissions, but it does not by itself prevent browsing outside the unit through other interfaces. Lock in your answer. Administrative units apply scope to management permissions. Answer D fits the requirement. The administrative unit limits management permissions, but it does not, by itself, prevent browsing outside the unit through other interfaces. They do not prevent members or administrators from using default permissions to browse objects outside the unit. And the filtering seen in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center does not extend to every other interface. Treat administrative unit scope as a boundary for delegated management permissions, not as proof of tenant-wide directory concealment. Question 16. An organization must represent 120 people who work for an external supplier in Exchange Online. Each person must be represented by an object that holds the person's external email address. After creation, an administrator must bulk update mail-related properties, such as email addresses, mail tips, and custom attributes. Which two actions should the administrator take? Answer A. Create mail contacts with the supplier personnel's external email addresses. Answer B. Use the Exchange Admin Center bulk edit experience to update all 120 objects. Answer C. Use Get Mail Contact and Set Mail Contact in Exchange Online PowerShell for the mail-related property updates. Answer D. Use Get Contact and Set Contact for the email address, mail tip, and custom attribute updates. Answer E. Create mail users for the external supplier personnel. Lock in your answer. Exchange Online mail contacts are mail-enabled objects for people outside the organization, and each mail contact has an external email address. The answers are A and C. A. Create mail contacts with the supplier personnel's external email addresses. And C. Use Get Mail Contact and Set Mail Contact in Exchange Online PowerShell for the mail-related property updates. The Exchange Admin Center does not support bulk editing of mail contacts. Get Mail Contact and Set Mail Contact are the documented commandlet family for mail-related properties such as email addresses, mail tips, and custom attributes. Separate object selection from property administration. Use mail contacts for outside people with external addresses, and use the mail contact commandlets, not the contact commandlets, for mail-related properties. Question 17. An Exchange Online organization has 600 mail contacts. An administrator must apply a new custom attribute to all of them and hide the affected contacts from address lists. Which management approach should the administrator use? Answer A. Use Get Contact and Set Contact because custom attributes and address list visibility are organization contact information properties. Answer B. Open each mail contact in the Exchange Admin Center and make the changes individually. Answer C. Use Exchange Online PowerShell to retrieve the mail contacts with Get Mail Contact and update their mail-related properties with Set Mail Contact. Answer D. Use a Microsoft Graph bulk update against Microsoft Entra user objects. Lock in your answer. Choose Exchange Online PowerShell and the Mail Contact Property Commandlet family for a bulk change to custom attributes or address list visibility. The Exchange Admin Center does not provide bulk editing for mail contacts. Custom attributes and address list visibility are mail-related properties, So the appropriate bulk approach uses the get mail contact and set mail contact commandlet family. C is a supported answer. Use Exchange Online PowerShell to retrieve the mail contacts with get mail contact and update their mail-related properties with set mail contact. Question 18. An administrator is maintaining one Exchange Online mail contact. The external email address, mail tip, custom attributes, and address list visibility must remain unchanged. Only the object's organization and contact information properties need to be revised. Which commandlet family should the administrator use? Answer A. Get mail contact and set mail contact. Answer B. Get user and set user. Answer C. Get contact and set contact. Answer D. Get mailbox and set mailbox. Lock in your answer. Get mail contact and set mail contact are reserved for mail-related properties, such as email addresses, mail tips, custom attributes, and address list visibility. Get contact and set contact are used to view and change organization and contact information properties. That makes C the answer. Get contact and set contact. For mail contacts, distinguish ordinary organization/contact information from mail-related settings before selecting the PowerShell noun. Question 19. A company wants to make a modern authentication method available to members of a pilot group while keeping it unavailable to all other users during the pilot. Which configuration should an administrator make? Answer A. Enable the method in the authentication methods policy and target the pilot group. Answer B. Enable the method in the authentication methods policy for all users, then ask non-pilot users not to register it. Answer C. Create a conditional access grant control for the pilot group instead of enabling the method in an authentication policy. Answer D. Add the method separately to each pilot user's current registrations without changing method availability policy. Lock in your answer. The supported selection is answer A. Enable the method in the authentication methods policy and target the pilot group. The authentication methods policy is the recommended mechanism for managing authentication methods and can enable a method for all users or for specific groups. Targeting the pilot group establishes the requested population-level availability boundary. For staged method rollouts, separate method availability from access enforcement and target the authentication methods policy to the intended group. Question 20. During authentication method policy consolidation, an administrator disables a method in the authentication methods policy. Testing shows that a user can still register and use the method because it remains enabled for that user through a legacy policy. What must the administrator do to prevent use of the method? Answer A. Disable the method in every policy that can enable it for the user. Answer B. Convert the user's per-user MFA state and leave both method policies unchanged. Answer C. Delete the user's current registration, but leave the legacy policy enabled. Answer D. Disable the method only in the authentication methods policy and wait for its setting to synchronize to the legacy policy. Lock in your answer. Authentication method policy settings are managed independently and are not synchronized. When multiple policy stores can enable a method, availability is the union of their settings. Complete disablement must close every enabling path. Answer A fits the requirement. Disable the method in every policy that can enable it for the user. Reconcile overlapping policy settings so a method is either retained or fully disabled during migration. Question 21. A security team must delegate day-to-day administration of authentication method availability without assigning broader tenant administration duties. The delegated operator must use Microsoft's recommended policy for enabling methods. Which two components should the design use? Answer A, individual user registration maintenance as the availability policy. Answer B, the authentication methods policy as the method management plane. Answer C, conditional access grant controls as the only place where methods are enabled. Answer D, the authentication policy administrator role for the delegated operator. Lock in your answer. Pair the delegated authentication policy role with the recommended policy plane for managing authentication method availability. Authentication policy administrators can edit the authentication methods policy, and that policy is Microsoft's recommended way to manage authentication methods. The answers are B and D. B, the authentication methods policy as the method management plane, and D, the authentication policy administrator role for the delegated operator. Question 22. Users at a company frequently choose passwords containing the company's name, its product names, and the local sports team's name. The company must cause password change requests containing these organization-specific strings to fail. What should an administrator configure? Answer A, change smart lockout settings for repeated failed sign-in attempts. Answer B, add the organization-specific strings to the Microsoft Entra custom banned password list. Answer C, create a conditional access policy that requires stronger passwords when users sign in. Answer D, add the strings to a mailflow rule that rejects messages containing them. Lock in your answer. Smart Lockout addresses sign-in attempt behavior rather than selection of organization-specific password strings. The Microsoft Entra custom banned password list evaluates specified organization-relevant strings and blocks a password change when the request matches the list. B is the supported answer. Add the organization-specific strings to the Microsoft Entra custom banned password list. Use custom banned terms for weak password patterns that are specific to the organization's names, products, locations, or culture. Question 23. A company has installed and registered the Microsoft Entra Password Protection Proxy Service and DC agents in its on-premises AD/DS environment. Before insecure passwords are rejected, the operations team wants to observe policy evaluations and determine whether existing processes would be disrupted. Which rollout plan should the company use? Answer A, remain in audit mode permanently because audit mode both logs and rejects insecure passwords. Answer B, start in enforced mode to collect event log evidence and then move to audit mode to reject insecure passwords. Answer C, start in audit mode, monitor the resulting event log evidence, and then move to enforced mode when ready to reject insecure passwords. Answer D, disable on-premises password protection until enforced mode can be enabled without prior observation. Lock in your answer. Microsoft recommends starting an on-premises deployment in audit mode and monitoring event log entries for operational impact. Audit mode evaluates and logs insecure passwords, but still processes them. Enforced mode is the stage that rejects passwords considered insecure. That makes C the answer. Start in audit mode, monitor the resulting event log evidence, and then move to enforced mode when ready to reject insecure passwords. Stage on-premises password protection from observable audit evaluation to rejection after prerequisites are present. Question 24. A hybrid organization already maintains a custom banned password list in Microsoft Entra ID. It now wants password changes in its on-premises AD/DS environment to be evaluated by Microsoft Entra Password Protection. Before an administrator chooses audit or enforce mode, which action addresses the required on-premises deployment prerequisite? Answer A, set the on-premises policy to enforce mode and rely on the cloud custom banned password list without deploying on-premises components. Answer B, install and register the Microsoft Entra Password Protection Proxy Service and DC agents in the on-premises AD/DS environment. Answer C, start audit mode on the domain controllers before installing or registering the proxy service and DC agents. Answer D. Add more organization-specific strings to the custom banned password list instead of deploying the proxy service and DC agents. Lock in your answer. Identify and satisfy the component prerequisite for extending Microsoft Entra password protection evaluation to on-premises ADDS before selecting an operating mode. Expanding the custom banned list can block additional organization-specific strings, but it does not satisfy the component prerequisite for on-premises ADDS evaluation. On-premises Microsoft Entra password protection requires the proxy service and DC agents to be installed and registered in the ADDS environment before on-premises enablement. The supported selection is answer B. Install and register the Microsoft Entra password protection proxy service and DC agents in the on-premises ADDS environment. Question 25. A company will pilot self-service password reset SSPR with one support team before a tenant-wide rollout. Its SSPR policy requires users to complete 2 verification methods, and pilot users must be able to complete the workflow without administrator intervention. Which 2 actions should the identity administrator take? Answer A. Keep only 1 contact method per pilot user, even though the policy requires 2 verification methods. Answer B. Enable SSPR for all users so the pilot group can register. Answer C. Ensure each pilot user has at least 2 properly configured contact methods. Answer D. Set the SSPR scope to none until the company is ready for the tenant-wide rollout. Answer E. Enable SSPR for selected users and choose the support team's group. Lock in your answer. Answers C and E satisfy the requirement. C. Ensure each pilot user has at least 2 properly configured contact methods. And E. Enable SSPR for selected users and choose the support team's group. Selected scope provides a controlled SSPR population for the pilot. Because the stated policy requires 2 verification methods, each pilot user also needs at least 2 properly configured contact methods. These actions jointly establish the intended scope and make the required verification workflow usable. For an SSPR pilot, separate 2 decisions: who is in scope and whether each in-scope user has enough valid contact methods to satisfy the verification policy. Question 26. SSPR is enabled for a selected group. A user is a member of a nested group under that selected group, but the user cannot complete SSPR. Investigation shows that the user has no appropriate license and that the contact data on the account is malformed. Which 2 corrections directly address the documented eligibility and usage boundaries? Answer A. Change the SSPR scope from selected to none. Answer B. Leave the malformed contact data unchanged and reduce the account to 1 contact method. Answer C. Replace the nested group design by enabling a second SSPR group separately in the Microsoft Entra Admin Center. Answer D. Correct the user's contact data in the directory. Answer E. Assign the user an appropriate license. Lock in your answer. Nested groups are supported as part of a wider SSPR deployment, so the nested membership is not the stated problem. The documented checks are that users in the chosen groups have appropriate licenses and that their directory contact data is properly formed. Both observed defects therefore require correction. The answers are D and E. D. Correct the user's contact data in the directory, and E. Assign the user an appropriate license. When an intended SSPR user fails, validate scope membership, licensing, and well-formed contact data independently, instead of assuming group nesting is the cause. Question 27. An organization is expanding SSPR beyond its original pilot. Only the finance and legal departments should be enabled during the next phase. Each department already has its own group, and all intended users have appropriate licenses and valid contact data. The administrator must work within the Microsoft Entra Admin Center's current SSPR group selection boundary. Which design should the administrator use? Answer A. Create one SSPR rollout group, nest the finance and legal groups in it, and select the rollout group for SSPR. Answer B. Select the finance group and the legal group as two separately enabled SSPR groups in the Admin Center. Answer C. Set SSPR to none and keep the departmental groups unchanged. Answer D. Enable SSPR for all users, because more than one department is participating. Lock in your answer. When several cohorts must share a selected SSPR rollout, use the one group portal boundary and supported nesting to design the scope without broadening it to everyone. A is the supported answer. Create one SSPR rollout group, nest the finance and legal groups in it, and select the rollout group for SSPR. The Microsoft Entra Admin Center currently enables one group for SSPR, and nested groups are supported for a wider deployment. Selecting one rollout group that contains the two departmental groups therefore keeps the next phase limited to finance and legal, while respecting the portal boundary. Question 28. An organization is investigating a failed authentication event. The exact event is available for review, but the failure cause is not yet known. An identity support engineer has the required permissions. The engineer needs an event-specific analysis that explains what happened and recommends next actions. Answer A. Open Diagnose and solve problems and search for the captured authentication event. Answer B. Open Microsoft Entra audit logs and filter activity around the event. Answer C. Open Microsoft 365 Service Health and check current incidents and advisories. Answer D. Open Conditional Access What If and enter the event conditions. Lock in your answer. Opening, diagnose and solve problems, and searching for the captured authentication event starts the Microsoft Entra sign-in diagnostic. That makes A the answer. Open, diagnose and solve problems, and search for the captured authentication event. Choose the mechanism that analyzes the captured sign-in event, explains what happened, and provides recommended next actions. Question 29. A service desk engineer has isolated a failed authentication event in the Microsoft Entra sign-in logs. Before changing any policy or authentication method, which two fields should the engineer examine for the error description and likely next steps? Answer A. Correlation ID. Answer B. Additional details. Answer C. Application display name. Answer D. IP address. Answer E. Failure reason. Lock in your answer. Isolate a failed sign-in in the logs and use failure details or the error code to determine the next action. The supported selections are answers B and E. B, additional details, and E, failure reason. Failure reason describes the error. Additional detail supplies more context and often explains how to resolve the issue. These are the documented fields to inspect for the failure description and next step guidance before taking corrective action. Question 30. A user who normally accesses Microsoft 365 successfully is now unable to complete an interactive sign-in. The service desk locates the failed attempt in Microsoft Entra and sees that the event has been flagged, but the available event details have not established whether authentication, policy evaluation, or another condition caused the failure. Administrators will consider changes only after the cause is understood. Which action should the service desk take next? Answer A. Open the user's risky sign-ins and investigate the flagged record. Answer B. Search the audit logs for changes to the user's account and authentication methods. Answer C. Run Conditional Access What If for the user and target resource. Answer D. Run the Microsoft Entra sign-in diagnostic for the affected event. Lock in your answer. For an unresolved recorded sign-in failure, distinguish event diagnosis from a policy simulation, an identity risk investigation, and a search for directory changes. Choose the narrower tool only when the evidence has already scoped the problem to that layer. The Microsoft Entra Sign-In Diagnostic is designed to analyze sign-in events and flagged sign-ins, display information about what happened, and provide recommendations for resolving the problem. It is therefore the appropriate next step for the unresolved recorded attempt, while administrators retain responsibility for evaluating and making any subsequent change. Answer D fits the requirement. Run the Microsoft Entra Sign-In Diagnostic for the affected event. Question 31. A Microsoft-managed conditional access policy has appeared in report-only state. The organization requires a 60-day internal review with no automatic enforcement during that period. If the policy is enabled later, an emergency access account must remain excluded. Which two actions meet these requirements within the supported management boundary? Answer A. Leave the policy in report only for all 60 days and assume it cannot be enabled automatically. Answer B. Add the emergency access account to the policy's identity exclusions. Answer C. Delete the Microsoft managed policy and recreate it after the review. Answer D. Set the Microsoft managed policy state to off during the review. Answer E. Immediately rebuild the policy as a custom policy solely to pause enforcement and exclude the emergency account. Lock in your answer. A Microsoft managed policy left in report only can later be enabled by Microsoft, so setting it to off opts out and prevents that lifecycle from enforcing it during the review. The answers are B and D. B. Add the emergency access account to the policy's identity exclusions. And D. Set the Microsoft managed policy state to off during the review. Identity exclusions are a supported edit, and Microsoft recommends excluding emergency access accounts. These supported changes satisfy the pause and access preservation requirements without an unnecessary custom policy replacement. For Microsoft managed policies, first test whether the requirement can be met with supported state and identity exclusion changes before crossing into a custom policy design. Question 32. A background agent runs on a schedule and obtains tokens through client credentials. No user signs in, and the token subject is the agent's own identity. The security team wants conditional access to block this agent when its agent risk is high. Which two configuration choices align with that access pattern and control goal? Answer A. Scope the conditional access policy to the agent identity. Answer B. Configure an on behalf of user flow so the policy can evaluate the user's risk instead. Answer C. Scope the policy to a signed-in user because every access token has a user subject. Answer D. Configure agent risk for high and select the block grant control. Answer E. Configure high agent risk but select an allow style grant rather than block. Lock in your answer. With client credentials and no signed-in user, the issued token's subject is the agent identity, so conditional access scope applies to that identity rather than a user. Determine the token subject before choosing conditional access scope. Then pair the relevant risk condition with a grant control that actually implements the required outcome. A and D are the supported answers. A. Scope the conditional access policy to the agent identity. And D. Configure agent risk for high and select the block grant control. Question 33. An organization receives a Microsoft-managed conditional access policy. The security architecture team wants to retain the managed policy as a Microsoft-maintained baseline, but also needs a separate policy whose pre-configured conditions and controls can be changed beyond state and identity exclusions. What should the team do? Answer A. Duplicate the Microsoft managed policy, then make the broader changes in the resulting custom policy. Answer B. Set the Microsoft managed policy to report only, which makes all of its conditions and controls editable. Answer C. Set the Microsoft Managed policy to Off and assume its pre-configured conditions and controls are thereby changed. Answer D. Directly replace the conditions and controls in the Microsoft Managed policy, while keeping it Microsoft maintained. Lock in your answer. That makes A the answer. Duplicate the Microsoft Managed policy. Then make the broader changes in the resulting custom policy. Microsoft maintains the Managed policy's template, configuration, and updates. Administrators can control its state and identity exclusions, while broader changes require duplicating it into a custom policy. The duplicate supplies the editable policy boundary, while the original remains the Microsoft-maintained baseline. Use state and identity exclusions for supported managed policy governance. Duplicate to a custom policy when the design requires broader condition or control changes. You have completed 33 questions in this part of the AB-650 practice set. You practiced separating identity objects, authentication methods, policy scope, role boundaries, and access controls. Carry those distinctions into the next set, and keep choosing the control that matches the exact scope and outcome in the scenario. Thanks for practicing with WebLizard Labs and WebLizard Cert Lab. Continue with the next part of the AB650 practice set whenever you are ready.